Sometimes you can be responsible for interacting with many instances of SQL Server, and that can be very confusing and sometimes lead to major problems. Perhaps you have had two databases, perhaps with the same name, perhaps not, on two different servers, where one was, say, a development server, and the other was, say, a production server. Perhaps you've been in the situation where you executed a query against the production database, or executed T-SQL that modified the database or its data, when you thought you were using a query window associated with the development database. This isn't good. I'm going to show you a technique that will assist you in avoiding this situation, so long as the two databases are in fact on different instances of SQL Server. At the end of the video, I am going to suggest a technique that you can use if you wish to have separate colored windows on the same instance of SQL Server. It takes a little bit of a workaround. And what we're going to do is use the Registered Servers toolbar. I think that technically is a toolbar within Windows. Notice that it has a top level of database engine, local server groups, and then we can in fact go ahead and put another folder under here for groups. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to register two servers directly under this node. So I'm going to come in and make a new server registration. The server name will be an instance of SQL Server S2K14, and we can give it a description if we want. We can also give it an alternate name if we wish, which in this case I'm going to call development. That is not required. And I'm going to say this server is going to have some color associated with it, and we'll see where that shows up in just a moment. I'll come in, and since this is the development machine, I'm going to associate green with that, thinking that means, yeah, go ahead and do something here, you won't lose your job. So we have that. Now let's go ahead and double click on it, and we'll see that it opens that instance of SQL Server in Objects Explorer, and as a matter of fact it even gives it the name that we aliased up here. If you have an organization with very confusing server names, this might be rather nice and eliminate some confusion. It may not. You don't have to alias it in order to associate a color with it. Now how does that color show up? If we come up and click New Query, we'll see that the status bar at the bottom of the screen has all the information it did before, but it's green. Now let's go ahead and add the production server. And we're going to give it the color red, meaning danger, watch out, don't do anything stupid. We'll go ahead and double click on it and open it as well. Now because this is in registered servers, this will appear even if we close Management Studio and open it again, unlike the servers that appear in Object Explorer. So let's see what that does. We'll come here, we'll open a query window associated with it, and we'll see it's red. Now we have a clear visual indicator that shows which server we're working on. Perhaps unfortunately, it's at the bottom of the screen. And it's especially a problem because I very often have a screen set up on its side in portrait mode because my code tends to be taller than it is wide, and so I may not see this at the bottom. What we can do about that is go to the Tools menu item and go to Options. When we navigate through the tree view pages shown, we can go to Text Editor, and the very bottom item is Editor tab and Status bar. And there we can go ahead and change the status bar location from the bottom to the top. It will only take effect for new windows. So we now see that the status bar is in our face. And it should be much easier to see which instance of SQL Server we're using. You also have to get used to looking at the top to see execution time and the number of rows returned. That's a small price to pay for the safety that this technique provides. Because this is configurable on an instance-by-instance basis, it may seem that you can't configure this to have separately colored status bars for different databases on the same server. However, I can suggest a workaround to this. We know that Management Studio doesn't like to let you open two instances of the same SQL Server within Object Explorer. However, it only prevents you from doing that if you use the same security credentials to open both of them. So what you might want to do is create two Windows or SQL Server accounts, each of which is only DBO for the relevant database under one of the account names. These accounts should not be SA, System Administrator accounts. Otherwise, that's the one you'll use and it will defeat the whole purpose. Once you do that, you can open two instances of SQL Server. You can open the same instance of SQL Server in Management Studio twice, and each one will only be able to access the database for which it has rights, and you can then go ahead and configure the status bar to have a separate color for each account name. If you enjoyed this video, or you at least found it helpful, please like, share, subscribe, comment as you see fit. If you visit my website, SQLServerBoss.com, you will, over time, find additional comment, scripts, and other material which may also be helpful.